Hello, this is Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech with a new series called Hot and Not Explained with MTG Stocks. MTG Stocks is a really cool website that takes a bunch of information from TCG Player and puts it into some very accessible forms to figure out what cards are moving up and what cards are moving down on a daily basis. This series is going to be based off of their interest page, which takes cards like this that have just jumped overnight and aggregates them so that you can see what has happened yesterday and what has happened in the last week. You can see cards that are shooting up in price. You can also see cards that are dropping in price. And the goal of this series is to talk about some of those cards, what's going on in the community, and figure out, should I be buying or should I be selling some of these cards? For example, right here, you've got a bunch of Magic Origin cards that are on their way down. This is very typical after we see a set released. When more of these get out into the market, anything at that rare and mythic level that isn't seeing a huge amount of tournament play starts to take a hit. This doesn't mean that Magic Origins itself is tanking across the board. It just means that some of those staples, it may be a good time to get into those cards. And you see this trend happening. Let's jump in though with a few other pieces. Number one here, we see Temple of Epiphany shoot through the roof, double overnight, and sustain that for a week, $4 to $9. Why is this? Well, Standard right now has several good blue-red decks. People are looking for answers for them. This is on my sell list. Overnight, this card has shot up. Long term, it's not seeing much play in Modern. It could sustain this $9 level for several months, but once it rotates out of Standard, it's not going to be worth much at all. So you've got this window of opportunity right now to take some of the staples that are in the current new Standard decks and sell them and turn those into Eternal cards. Next thing we're looking at here, though, is an Eternal card that has hit the Hot or Not list a few times for going up and down. Cards like this fluctuate a lot more because of the limited supply. You may only see 2 or 3 of them on TCG Player at a time, then somebody will list a playset or 2 of them, and then they'll disappear overnight. Part of the reason, though, that cards like this are going up is there's a new interesting format out there called Old School. It basically takes and brings people back to the nostalgic past of 1993 and 1994. I'm going to do a whole video on Old School Magic because it is a crazy format. You're only allowed to play with cards from the dark and back, and they have to be English versions. What that means, if this format takes off for Italian Legends versus English Legends, from an investment perspective, it's fascinating. But they've taken this really iconic card that is a lot of fun to play. It's not good currently because creatures have gotten so much better, but was good in 93 and 94. And you see the value on lots of these older cards slowly rising as people either pick them up for collections, pick them up for nostalgia, or pick them up to play in a cool old format like this. I just got to share this deck list with you. The URL to find out more information about it is here, but it's somebody trying to build lands with that 1993 94 format. Very cool looking deck. Another thing that I want to point out here is that looking at interest over time, you can see trends. Even when things jump up pretty quickly and fall back down, if you look at that retrospectively over the last few months, it shows you some interesting stuff. And I hope that at some point on the MTG Stocks site, we're able to page back through and see interest from yesterday, the day before, a month before. But I used Internet Archive to do this because several months ago, I saw Cobble Coffers kind of jumping all around. Cobble Coffers is still jumping all around, but the trend is on the positive. This is an EDH staple that I'm definitely recommend buying. And I wouldn't have noticed what was going on with this card if it wasn't for that interest page. Look for staples in a format like EDH that slowly rise over time. And if you don't see a reprint in the horizon, these are solid cards to pick up and to put in your trade binder. They may move a little bit slowly because it's a casual format, but as long as they're going up over time, they're a really solid investment for you. Similarly, on that same list where we saw Temple of Epiphany, Polluted Delta was there with a nearly 20% jump over 1 week. This is not the time to sell Polluted Delta. Star City Games has already jumped the price to $30. Several other websites that I've seen online are at $25. Now is the time to buy this card before individuals have rushed the market to pick up what they need for their modern decks. Long term, this is a solid $30+ card, and if you can pick it up at this $20 to $23 range, you're going to be in good shape. The other thing that I like about these graphs is that they show you a little bit of a story about what's going on if you're familiar with the formats. Omniscience has shot through the roof. We've got a Legacy GP coming up here in the Seattle area. Legacy is still a popular competitive format, and Omniscience is one of the best decks out there. Omni's show particularly uses dig through time to assemble the combo a second or third time and go off through counter spells. Trinisphere is one of the best answers to that deck. It's also a casual favorite in some of the more competitive EDH circles. Trinisphere has been slowly going up over time as Eternal Weekend comes next week, and then the Legacy GP comes up. If Trinisphere makes a strong showing against Omniscience, then this card could continue to go up. I see no reason that they would reprint this in an upcoming set. It is a very, very powerful card that just warps formats. This is a card that if you want a copy of it, I would definitely pick it up now. Another card that's been on the interest list for several weeks now are the Urza lands. Urza lands can be a little bit confusing for individuals just getting into Modern. There are so many printings of Urza lands. Urza lands themselves have multiple different artwork. Some of them are white border, some of them are black border, some of them are even white border with the set symbols. I'm going to take a minute and explain a little bit about what's going on with the Urza lands here. Urza lands are essential to Urzatron, one of the better modern decks out there. You need a complete set, but they were printed at common, so lots and lots of stores have stacks of them, but most of them are the overprinted versions from Chronicles or from 5th edition or 8th edition. The ones that are going to have long-term value are not those. The ones that are going to have long-term value are the black border versions, especially their original printing in Antiquities. In Antiquities, 3 amazing artists did the artwork on each of the different sets. They're iconic artists, iconic artwork. Anybody who opened those packs has stacks and stacks and stacks of them, but there really weren't many packs put out. Lots of stores still view these as 50-cent or $1 cards, even though they've jumped up to $5 plus. The ceiling on these cards could be $10 or $15. These are some of the most popular artwork to put out there. The artwork is incredible and they make your deck look just amazing. I actually prefer those original Antiquities versions over the foils that were printed in 8th and 9th edition. Long term, the Antiquities versions could definitely catch up to them in value and are on that trajectory currently. One other thing to note about them is that the same card with different artwork can be of a different rarity in Antiquities, so some of the pictures are going to be more difficult to find and have a higher value. They didn't mark cards with what was common and uncommon or how many times it was on a printing sheet. I'm going to do a separate video that covers that a little bit later because it's a complicated topic. Overall, those early Urza Antiquities lands still have a lot of growth value in them as Modern explodes as a format. If you like this video, please
crush that subscribe button or take 1 damage during your next upkeep.
Thanks. This has been Brian Rowe with Mythic MTG Tech doing a Hot and Not Explained video with MTG Stocks. Also, thank you to everybody who's over there on Patreon supporting the channel. You make these videos possible.